The prison break story I'm going to tell you today is so astonishing and thrilling that a full novel could be written about it. There used to be a Unit 32 in this prison, which was considered the most dangerous unit of the jail. And the mastermind of this jailbreak was the first prisoner who was placed in Unit 32. But he even escaped from there. Escaping this prison was nearly impossible for any prisoner, because apart from the electric current fences and guards who always kept a watch, on every inmate, there was also the Mississippi Delta behind the prison walls. It spanned across several acres, and any prisoner trying to escape either lost their life or got caught. This part near the Mississippi River had turned into a jungle due to accumulated mud and growing shrubs. The intense heat and deadly insects here were just as dangerous as the prison guards. Although a prisoner had tried escaping before, got trapped in the swamp of the Mississippi Delta and lost his life. So who were these prisoners? Was this Unit 32, whose very name made inmates tremble? And how did both of these prisoners escape? The risks they took to get out will send chills down your spine. On the morning of May 28, 2000, two guards reached outside the Unit 32 cells to check if all prisoners had eaten breakfast. They noticed something unusual to food trays were lying untouched inside two cells. This shocked them because prisoners, always hungry, usually devoured their meals immediately. But seeing these trays, as the guards stepped inside the cells, the ground beneath their feet slipped away. The story begins with the Mississippi State Penitentiary. It's also known as Parchman Jail. This is Mississippi's oldest prison with a terrifying and gruesome history. In 1901, the American government bought this land, which used to be a farm. After purchasing it, they put all black inmates to work, building the very prison that was going to become their nightmare. These prisoners were made to work like animals day and night. Building the same prison, they would eventually be locked. Inside, this jail was dangerous and terrifying for many reasons. Inmates were frequently murdered or committed suicide here, and leaking sewer lines led to deadly bugs biting prisoners, killing or seriously infecting them. This prison was spread over 18,000 acres and surrounded from behind by a massive swamp and shrubs. That area alone was like a separate prison, filled with bugs, snakes, and deadly marshes capable of killing any man. There were inmates in this prison, and each one wanted to escape. But with electric wires on the walls and brutal guards under orders to shoot any escaping prisoner on sight, no one had succeeded. Now comes the most dangerous part of the prison, the Supermax unit, known as Unit 32. Unit 32 wasn't just a prison, it was a place where inmates were treated worse than animals. Prisoners here were so dangerous, they would rape or stab other inmates at night. Torture in this unit was so severe that some inmates lost their minds and went insane. This unit was full of psychopaths and murderers, and that's why the walls had high-voltage fences and guards under shut-on-sight orders. This area was known as the kill zone. The unit's walls were entirely made of reinforced concrete with embedded steel rods, making them even stronger. But not even these electrified fences, guards, concrete walls could stop the two prisoners who carried out the most brilliant prison break in Mississippi's history. The mastermind of this jailbreak was named Roy Harper. He'd already escaped from an Arizona prison in 1981 and was sent back to Mississippi. His prison for murder and a bank robbery. The court sentenced him to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. After serving 8 years, when Unit 32 was launched in 1990, Harper was the first prisoner placed there because of his previous escape and murder conviction. The day he put into Unit 32, he decided he would escape again. In 1993, he even tried escaping by cutting the cell window with a hacksaw blade, but was caught. After that, he was tortured worse than an animal. Any other prisoner would have abandoned the idea of escape forever. But Harper's resolve only grew stronger. Harper wanted to escape, but had many challenges in front of him. First, he had to cut the cell window without being noticed. Second, he had to cross the vast delta alive. The cell windows were entirely made of steel with embedded rods, but Harper had learned from his previous mistake. He now knew he needed a plan, tools, and some money to get money. He quietly took $200 from his wife during visitation so he could use it inside the prison. Since corruption in Mississippi prison was extreme, he used $40 to buy a hacksaw blade. From a guard, he got the blade. But he also needed a tool to unscrew the window. And the problem was, he had to do it just 20 feet away from the guards to make this tool. He broke the steel covers of light fixtures into pieces and using a pencil sharpener blade, shaped one piece into a screwdriver, and shockingly, it worked. Harper was slowly advancing toward his plan. At that time, another prisoner entered Unit 32, who was convicted for murder, and his name was John Wald. John was extremely dangerous and known for attacking anyone at any time. He was placed in the cell right next to Harper. Harper now felt his plan was at risk, not just from guards, but also from John. If John did anything suspicious, Harper's whole plan could be ruined. That's when Harper got an idea to protect his plan from any trouble. He would have to involve John. He waited for the right moment to speak with John. Inmates were given an hour of ground time, during which they could talk to each other. This was the most awaited time of the day for inmates. During ground time, Harper told John his entire plan. Without hesitation, John agreed to help him. They started discussing the plan daily during ground time and divided it, into 3 stages. Cut the cell window and get out. Cross the prison yard and reach the outer wall. Cross the delta filled with swamps and bushes and escape Mississippi forever. To execute each stage, they had to prepare in detail, especially stage 2, crossing the prison yard. Luckily, fate was also helping them. Their cells were on the first floor of Unit 32. Their plan was to jump down from their first floor cell window, hide in the shadow of the C-block wall, cross the yard, and escape. But their biggest challenge was the 50-foot open yard area constantly under floodlights and guard watch. Even if they crossed that, they still had to pass the kill zone where armed guards stood ready. For Harper, this wasn't new. He had escaped before, but this time, even he was sweating. One small mistake could mean disaster. Harper and John started observing every small detail of Unit 32, looking for weaknesses. After a few weeks, Harper realized they would need extra inmate uniforms, which they smuggled into their cell by bribing guards, along with the uniform. Harper also made a black cream by mixing paper ash and Vaseline to hide their faces. He planned everything down to the smallest detail, but one question haunted him. The delta, the water there was full of bugs and not drinkable. So he began making bags from jail-issued jackets to carry clean water bottles. After all these preparations, Harper and John turned their focus back to the cell windows they had to escape through. They decided to begin cutting their windows with hacksaw blades, but they had to be extremely cautious, as a guard passed by every few minutes. They had just begun cutting when Harper heard footsteps. He'd already cut halfway through the window, and part of it was sticking out. He panicked. Someone was coming. The person approaching Harper's cell was none other than the jailer of Unit 32. Doing a surprise inspection, Harper was just moments away from being caught. With the blade in hand and the window half cut, he quickly hid the blade under the bed and stood at the gate to distract the jailer. Harper had no idea luck would be on his side again. The jailer left without noticing the window. The next day, they resumed cutting, but once the window was fully cut, the sight behind it left them disheartened. There was another window, made entirely of steel with embedded rods. Harper felt his plan was failing, but he was determined to escape no matter what. Looking closely, Harper saw that the bottom section of this window was covered with a thin steel strip. He started cutting the strip with his blade. It cut easily. Under the strip was a lock. Turning it unlocked the window completely. Now they could open it without cutting anything. They had cleared the first hurdle. But the biggest challenge remained. They couldn't crawl across the yard in broad daylight. So, Harper reattached the window, covered the saw marks with soap paste to hide the cuts. Now they waited for the night they'd escape. 2 days later, that night arrived. They had already decided what time to break out. Right after the final night, they wore the uniforms. They filled the extra ones with sheets to make dummies. Then, removing the first window. They open the second window and start throwing all their belongings out of it one by one. After throwing the items, Harper and John both apply that black cream on their faces, which Harper had made using Vaseline and ash from burnt paper. The reason behind it was that their faces should not be visible to anyone in the dark. Now both of them jump out of the window and slowly start crawling towards the wall of C block. But they were constantly afraid that no guard should see them. And then something happened that shook their souls, because between the jail's inner and outer grills was the kill zone, where any prisoner seen was ordered to be shot on sight. And Harper and John also crawled up to the inner grill, from where they could clearly see the kill zone and the guards standing in the watchtower. This was the moment when they felt the most fear and anxiety, because now they had to cut this grill and cross the kill zone in front of the guards. They gather courage and slowly start cutting the grill. Both were still cutting the grill when suddenly a headlight falls on them. It was the headlight of the patrol jeep of the guards. For a moment, Harper and John felt that their plan had failed. But here too, luck supported them, and the guards went away from there without seeing them. Anyway, they both cut the grill and crawl in the darkness across the kill zone. And by cutting the outer grill, they reached the delta area outside the prison. At night, this delta looked even more dangerous because it was surrounded by water, swamps and bushes in which there were poisonous snakes and insects. And they had to cross this delta alive and safe before morning. It had been several hours since they had escaped from jail, and they had already gone many kilometers away. But as the sun kept rising, the delta was becoming hotter and more dangerous for them, because this delta was spread under the open sky, far and wide. Due to the heat of the sun, it was becoming very difficult for them to walk, so both of them constantly feared that if someone started looking for them, they would be caught. Now they had to quickly find a place where they could rest and no one could spot them. And then they saw a small area which was completely filled with bushes. In that small space, they both lie down between the bushes so that the sunlight and no one's eyes fall on them, and this was the only way for their survival. Meanwhile, in the jail cell, the dummies that Harper and John had placed did their job. And even several hours after morning, no guard realized that 2 prisoners had escaped. However, when 2 guards again came outside the cell to check whether the prisoners had eaten breakfast or not, they found something suspicious after looking at the trays inside, and when they carefully checked the beds of both prisoners, they saw those dummies, and seeing them, they were shocked. They realized that Harper and John had escaped from jail. One of them immediately sounds the prison alarm. As soon as the alarm rang, there was chaos in the jail. After this, guards and the jailer reached Harper's cell, where they found the hole created due to cutting the windows. Looking at this window, the jailer understood the entire matter, that Harper and John had escaped through this window, crossing the yard towards the delta bushes. He immediately ordered a lockdown of the entire prison and started a search for them. It had been more than 12 hours since Harper and John escaped, which meant they were already 12 hours ahead, and that proved very helpful for them. The jail authority wanted to catch both of them before 24 hours passed, because after that, it could go very far out of their reach, so they informed the FBI and involved them as well. The FBI now circulated the photos of both prisoners to every police station in Mississippi, and the entire police force started searching for them. But they were unaware that the 2 prisoners had already gone far beyond their reach. Meanwhile, Harper and John, crossing the bushy delta, were extremely exhausted. Due to the intense heat and insects, it was becoming very difficult for them to take even a single step. Even though both tried hard to stay hidden in the bushes, the mosquitoes in this delta were so dangerous that as soon as they bit Harper and John, their bodies began to swell, making it difficult for them to sit there. During this time, they started hearing some sounds from a distance. These were the voices of the same guards and police who had come searching for them. Hearing these sounds, both of them froze in place, and their hearts started beating rapidly. Hey! They knew that even a single movement from them could make a sound, and they could be caught. So both of them stayed silent, hiding in the bushes, listening to the sounds carefully. Slowly, these sounds began to fade, which meant that the search party had moved ahead unaware that the 2 fugitives were very close to them, because they had a few bottles of water and some food, which they had stolen from the prison pantry, and hidden, they survived. With its help, both of them kept hiding and moving ahead in the delta for 3 days and nights so that the police and guards could not reach them. Anyway, after 3 days of struggle, they successfully crossed the delta and reached a small town called Webb in Mississippi. It was a very small town with very little population and very quiet surroundings. They felt that this was the perfect place to hide and get some necessary supplies. During this time, they noticed a house built in a deserted area and started keeping an eye on it so that they could enter it at the right moment. An old couple lived in that house who had gone to church since it was Sunday. This was the moment Harper and John had been waiting for, since they needed a car to escape from Mississippi. They broke into the house and first went into the kitchen because they were very hungry. After satisfying their hunger, they started searching all over the house for more useful things. And then they saw something that they couldn't believe with their eyes, something that was going to change the whole story. They saw a cupboard completely filled with weapons, from pistols and shotguns to bullets, which was nothing. Less than a treasure for Harper and John. They were just pulling out all the weapons and keeping them with them. Ow! When they heard the sound of a car stopping outside, it was the same old couple returning home, unaware of the danger. Hearing the sound of the car, Harper and John hide behind the kitchen door with guns. As soon as the old couple opens the kitchen door, Harper and John point their guns at them. Seeing this, the couple screams and doesn't understand what just happened, but Harper tells them that he won't hurt them and only needs the car keys. The couple was so scared that they immediately hand over the car keys to the fugitives. After that, Harper and John tie up the old couple so they can't inform the police and escape in the car. Now both of them had a car. They had also changed their clothes, which made it difficult to recognize them as escaped prisoners. And the most difficult task they succeeded in was surviving 3 whole days after escaping from jail. Whereas 90% of prisoners get caught within 24 hours, now they had a long road ahead and they had to leave Mississippi and disappear in any city of America. But their freedom didn't last long. The FBI started questioning the old couple whose house they had broken into, and from there, they also learned about the car in which they had escaped. Although the FBI knew which car they had taken, the biggest question now was, where had they gone? Then the FBI made a theory and issued an alert to police stations in different states, stating that the 2 fugitives were heading toward West Virginia via North Kansas. Harper was very smart and knew very well that if they stayed in the same car for long, they would get caught. So he planned something clever. Now Harper and John began looking for a new car. During this, they saw a man locking his van in a hotel parking lot. They immediately went into the parking lot, attacked him, and stole his van. But even after stealing the van, a danger still loomed over their heads that the owner of the van would surely report it to the police. So Harper decided to completely change the look of the van. He bought blue paint and some plates from a shop and changed the van so much that it was unrecognizable. Then both of them headed toward Indiana. Everything was going fine, and they were close to escaping forever, but now John's fear and panic started overtaking him, and this later became the reason for their capture. While heading to Indiana, John was driving the van, and due to his fear and anxiety, he was driving it too fast. Because of this, Indiana State Police noticed the van and started chasing it. This was a big mistake that ruined all their planning and hard work. Officer Raymond Coleman turns on the siren and stops the van and slowly approaches it. But before he could reach it, John, in panic, shoots at him. The bullet narrowly misses the officer. After this sudden attack, the officer immediately calls for backup. Seeing this, Harper also gets out of the van and starts shooting at the officer. In response, the officer also starts firing rapidly. What started as a police chase now turned into a shootout. Meanwhile, John quickly starts the van again, and Harper and he escape once more, unaware that they were now in deep trouble and very close to being caught. As soon as the backup team gets the van's location, they lay spike strips on the road. As soon as the van drives over them, its tires burst, and John and Harper are forced to stop the van. As soon as the van stops, police officers start firing at them rapidly. But since Harper had kept all the clothes and items they had stolen from the old couple in the back of the van, the bullets didn't reach them. Harper and John now realized they wouldn't survive. Without wasting time, They kick open the van's door and run towards the forest, firing back at the police. Just as the police were about to catch them, they slipped from their hands again. For the next 2 days, they kept hiding and roaming in a small town in Indiana. After this, the police put the entire town on high alert and told the people to inform them immediately if they saw any suspicious persons. Now Harper and John had also run out of food, and the cold of Indiana's forests was troubling them badly. Then, while searching for food, they came out of the forest, and this proved to be their biggest mistake. After coming out of the forest, they tried to mingle with the crowd. Just then, they had a face-off with an officer named Trololo, who was on patrol, though it was a coincidence. Seeing Harper and John, he immediately understood that these were the 2 fugitives from the alert. He quickly hides behind his car door and points his gun at them. Harper and John were now just 5 feet away from Officer Trololo, and seeing the police gun aimed at them, they raise their hands and pretend to surrender, because they had something else in mind. Both look at each other and exchange signals with their eyes. Before Officer Trololo could arrest them, John nods his head, after which Harper pushes the officer. Meanwhile, John starts the police car, and they both escape in it. 2 hours after escaping in the police car, they steal another van for the 4th time. But this time, luck abandons them. In their hurry and panic, that van meets with an accident. The police immediately reach the accident location, handcuff them, and take them into custody. And finally, their journey of freedom ends here. Both are sent back to Mississippi's Unit 32 prison. But since prisoners were treated worse than animals, in Unit 32, Harper appeals in court to shut down the unit. After several years of legal battle, Harper wins the case, and in 2010, Unit 32 is permanently shut down. After this case, other prisoners started respecting Harper a lot, and he also began writing a novel about his life in jail, which took 6 years to get published. Harper is still serving his sentence in a Colorado jail, which is far from Mississippi's Unit 32 and much more peaceful.